If you're a parent caught in the chaos of youth sports, the pressure, the politics, the excitement, you're not alone. This is Be Valiant.
Welcome to another episode of Be Valiant. I'm your host, Todd Merkow, the founder and CEO of Valiant Sports Society. Glad to have you in for another one. And as I seem to always say, episode to episode, I got another great one. And this one in particular is for all you softball parents, and we'll even throw in the baseball parents into this. I've got a great one. I met this guest probably about 3 months ago. Saw a post of hers on LinkedIn, saw a few posts, and then we had a conversation. Love what she's doing. She is a former collegiate athlete, played Division II softball as a catcher, which was one of our connections because I'm a catcher, as hopefully you all know by now. So you got two catchers on this show. She is an owner and founder of Boilermaker Softball Club, which is located in Pennsylvania. She started this club about 7 years ago. We're going to talk about it, in particular with what her mission is and her strategy is for her players, her female athletes, and she also has male athletes. But we're going to talk about that. She's a coach, obviously, in that club of teams of different age groups. She also has degrees from a bachelor's degree in exercise and sports science, which Madison, if you listen to Madison's episode, she had a degree in from Arizona State. She's got a degree from Spring Arbor University, where she graduated from. She also has a master's degree in exercise, sport, and physical education from McDaniel College. As I mentioned, D2 player, but she was also a D2 coach, head softball coach for Holy Family University. She's been a high school coach at a couple high schools, and so a lot of experience. And the one thing we can't leave out here, as we always seem to have a thread, she's also a sports parent. In this case, she's really entering into the sports journey. Her kids are 3, 5, and 7, 2 girls and 1 boy, and I'm so glad to welcome. Oh, and the other thing I got to add before she pops on here, she's soon to launch her own podcast called The Sideline Truth. So I'm so glad to welcome Crystalrae States. Welcome, Crystalrae.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. I was so glad when you reached out and we were able to chit chat about a lot of things. And it's always nice to find someone that you have a lot in common with. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you. And I'm really happy to hear your perspective today and everything that you're going to share with parents. So, I got to start this whole thing by telling you I was traveling this past weekend, and I was in the airport, and I ended up striking up a conversation with this guy next to me. Hopefully he listens to this at some point. And he was going to an event, and he said, yeah, but I'm coming back on Saturday because my daughter has a softball tournament I've got to get back to. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And I said, how old's your daughter? And he said, she's 9. And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's even more interesting. And so we started talking about the whole kind of ecosystem. And he started, I think he's on the early part of this, right? And I think he's had a lot of questions. And I said to him, well, you definitely gotta check into what's going on with my podcast and my nonprofit. But guess what? I've got a softball guest coming on this week, so you're definitely going to have to stay tuned. So anyway, it was really an interesting coincidence. So let's start with the beginning. Let's start. You're a player, you're an athlete. Talk about that journey and bring us up to date with essentially how you get to the club and starting your own club 7 years ago.
Sure. Back to the beginning, as a youngin', I loved sports, all sports in general, but softball's always been my first love. I started playing at the age of 5. My dad coached me for a couple years and then kind of passed the reins off because I was ready for somebody else to coach me. And so I ended up playing 3 sports in high school. So I played softball, basketball, and volleyball. Loved all of them very much. Went on to be a collegiate athlete, as you said, at Spring Arbor University, was a catcher during my time there, coached after graduating, moved into teaching for a few years, and I had this itch to learn the administrative side of my trade, so I was in the physical education world and then wanted to learn more about that. So as mentioned, I went and got my master's in sport management from McDaniel College. And then I moved into the private sector. So I started working at Ambler Sports Academy as the general manager there, learning the ins and outs of facility management. And so I really enjoyed the business part with the training part, being on the turf, doing lessons, doing clinics, coaching teams. And that kind of springboarded me into my future endeavors, which involved being the national director of Quickball. And then now I work in the youth basketball sector. But ultimately, founding a club was one of my biggest pride and joys so far. And just developing a program that is female focused and female first, that we can really reach our athletes, whatever level they may be able and capable of playing, and nurture them through their journey. So that's a little bit about me. I'm also a mom, as you said. So we've got the 3 young ones running around, and I'm super busy. And my husband is a basketball guy. So people always said I ended up with a baseball guy, but I guess I traded turf for court. So here we are, happy family, happy kids. And, we're hoping that our kids enjoy sports as much as we do.
Yeah, let's start at the top. And with everything that you've done as a player, as a coach, as a club owner, I'll leave sports. Well, I don't, it's probably fair to keep sports parent in there. I mean, your oldest is 7, so you're definitely starting to get a taste of it as a parent. But talk about, how this journey has shaped you in your youth sports, thinking and everything as you're involved in so many different ways.
Yeah. So I think the fundamentals of, how you grow up and what's instilled in you. So I think it really starts with the parents that I had. My dad was not a collegiate athlete, nor is my mother, any of those things. My dad is actually really into the trades, and he's wildly talented in that area. And his work ethic and his ability to problem solve are 2 of the things that I had the privilege of growing up with. And then my mom on the other side was very much about being a good person, being a good teammate, kind of that compassion and that nurturing part. So I really have this very practical part of me and this grind, along with that kind of servant mindset of being a good teammate. And so having 2 parents that really worked on instilling those principles, and I was fortunate enough to be a decent enough athlete to be recruited. And so, what I really learned through sport is that it's a microcosm of life. And so the things that you experience, the hardships, the adversities, the friendships, the highs, the lows, all those moments, can really be transferable, at least those skills or coping mechanisms or whatever you may learn, into your real life. And I think that's what really gravitated me to sports, was the idea that 1, it could be an escape from things that you're experiencing in your regular life, but 2, the things that you can learn and use throughout the duration of time. So I think that's always what brings me back to it. And then I just had such a good experience in sports in general, even the highs and lows, that I just couldn't get enough of it. And so when I think about creating experiences for young kids, or what kids should go through, I really think about how can we help these kids through life through sport? And so really that's my goal. And I just think sports brings people so much joy too. So to watch kids and families go through really good experience, and even the tough ones, right? And what that can teach families and kids throughout. So it's really about the journey. I think that's what I really enjoy about it, and why I'm still involved today.
So, it's funny, I'm sitting here, not that the math is hard, but I'm doing the math and I'm realizing you started Boilermakers when you had to have been pregnant.
Yes.
So your
Yes.
timing couldn't be any better. But talk
Yeah.
about, really what inspired you to start a club of your own like that, and what you thought then to where you are today with the club.
Yeah, so I had coached for high school and different organizations, and um, back then the culture climate was very heavily parent-based coaching, particularly dads. And I thought to myself, where is the female representation of athletes that have played the sport and that are still passionate and want to give back to the game? And I just didn't think that we saw a lot of that. And so and I say this kind of tongue in cheek, but I was a little tired of the fat old men sitting on buckets screaming at girls. And I thought we could do this better. There's a better way to do this. And so it was born out of the idea of giving female athletes the experience that they always deserved. And I think that they wanted. They didn't want their parent yelling at them. They don't want that pressure. They didn't want those things. But how can we create an experience that takes that out of the equation and allows them to still play the sport? Because you have to have coaches, right? And so it was really that idea that we can serve our athletes better than what they were
How
getting.
many age groups do you have?
So in the past, we've had as young as 8 up to 18. So we currently have 12U through 18U
So
athletes.
eight, and is it one coach per team, or is it two coaches per team, or how do you
We
structure it?
we generally have 2 coaches per team.
Okay, so on the female side, then you have 16 female coaches that you found essentially for.
Well, at the beginning, there were 3 of us, and we had 2 teams, and we coached both. Then we went to 3 teams, and we coached the 3 of us rotated and coached 3 teams. And then we kept adding, more female coaches. And yeah, so yeah, at the peak, we had, I believe, 14 female coaches.
So
Yeah.
in just the structure of this, how hard is it for you to find female coaches to fill this mission, this strategy that you have for the club?
I think it's really challenging. That's probably the most challenging part of organizing and running the club is finding quality coaches, female or male. And I also should preface this idea, just because you play doesn't make you a good coach, right? So male or
For
female,
sure.
right? We can always fall into that pitfall of that. So at the end of the day, we're really looking for quality coaches, and we don't want to disregard the really great male coaches that are out there because there are many, and I've had some in my lifetime. So I don't want to disregard the talent that's out there as well. But I think what separates guys and gals when they're coming out of their sport, particularly in the baseball and softball world, is that baseball has post college trajectories, right? And there's a lot of places you can play, and there's a lot of pathways to continue to stay in the game, playing wise. For females, right, like softball or sports in general are a way to maybe get into a better school, get scholarships for education, and then you're going right to your career. So for females, in a lot of ways, it's really about, utilizing those tools to get into a better position, to get a better job or a better career post college. And so we're leveraging our sports instead of seeing the longevity of it. So I think in terms of what females experience when they're done playing is, I need to get a job, I need to do this, I'm starting a family, I'm pregnant, right? There's a lot of things that restrict females continue on that path of coaching, or it's simply in professional sports as well. Again, another side topic we could talk about forever, but I think the idea is looking for gals that want to get involved, that want to give back, that aren't suffering from burnout, or like, hey, I got out and now I'm a doctor, I'm, a lawyer, all these things,
Yeah.
And these big careers that they got to get right into and just don't have the time. So yeah, finding coaches is really hard. And then also, maybe you have coaches for a few years and then, they move on with their lives, which happens everywhere. But I think we see that more in the female side than we do in the male.
Yeah, and look,
side of coaching.
Yeah, I think it's really important what you're doing, and that's why I'm asking these questions. As a girl dad, and you know this story, and hopefully my audience is starting to understand more and more about me as a sports parent. I mean, I had 2 girls, and for me, in particular, my soccer player, I was just thirsting badly for her to have a female coach, and it very rare was there an opportunity for her to play for one. And then there was an opportunity where she's played for a few, but there was one in particular, and it just turned out not to be what you thought it was going to be, not because it was a gender difference. It was, like you said a minute ago, there's good coaches and there's bad coaches, and it doesn't matter what gender they are. A good coach still needs to have the proper perspective and probably training and the whole attitude and everything that goes with it. And I don't know if she really got that, a great female model. I guess that's a better way of saying this. I don't know if she ever got a really great female coach model. And I would like to hope that as many kids that are pouring into the space, and I know with my own daughter in particular, that there's a few girls that, got psychology degrees as an example because of some of their experiences that they had in youth sports with the idea of coming out of youth of their degree and doing things potentially for youth athletes and youth. So hopefully that the female athlete that is in the system will see more and more want to come back and give back to the younger age groups. I hope, because I think it's really critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's a lot of different reasons why people don't stay in the game, again, male and female, but I think in general, it's hard to find quality coaches, period. So, yeah, that's something you can probably talk about on another one of your, your
Yeah, no,
podcasts.
listen, we can go on and on about it. And I think it's just fair. You made the comment about, describe the guy who's sitting on the bucket. And in all fairness, like you said, there are some great ones who sit on the bucket. Like, there are some good ones. But,
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of value for parents to know that if you have a daughter, seek out a really strong female coach, because I think you're going to get more from that potentially than you would from a male coach. Again, not to say if you might have a great female coach and you might have a great male coach, put them up side by side and figure out what their qualities are. But at the end of the day, the female coach, because it's a female teaching and coaching your female daughter, has a lot of value to it. So hopefully there's more of it. I think it's fantastic that is a big part of the mission of Boilermakers. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you the question. It is the Boilermakers softball and baseball club. So you did start a baseball side of this. Was it out of the gate, or when did that start, and what's the strategy with that?
Yeah, I actually don't have anything to do with the baseball side. So Frank DeSimbrino, who at the time was the co-owner of Ambler Sports Academy, his son Frankie was just starting to get into be more serious about baseball. Although Frankie was serious about baseball since the time I think he came out of the womb, but he needed more out of the regular community ball that he was being given. So we sort of started simultaneously creating both sides of the brand, and we created the brand together as a nod to the town where we originally were out of, which was Ambler. There was the Boiler House, so it was a nod to who built the town and the legacy you can leave behind, and kind of the work ethic and things that we want to instill in our players. And so we built the brand together. He did the baseball side, obviously, and I did softball. There's a lot of overlap, shared resources, shared ideas, how we wanted to train and all of those things. And so, and Frank DeSimbrino is one of my biggest mentors. I can't say enough good things about him. So, we built it on both sides, and I'm happy to say we're still together. So it's been quite a journey for both of us, but Boilermakers are still going really strong. So,
all right, well, that's good. So then the last question I'm going to ask you about the Boilermakers, I was really intrigued with this thought. So now you have baseball side and you have the softball side. How many girls do you get that want to play on the baseball side, and how often does it happen?
So far, I haven't had any, but we do have siblings that play on both. They're siblings. We have a lot of siblings that play in the org. So I haven't had any baseball gals yet, but we may run into some coming up, especially with the women's baseball league starting.
Yeah, exactly, so, right? So come on, Crystalrae, let's develop those catchers.
Yeah, I gotta stay in my lane. You gotta know what you're good at and stick with it. So
yeah, all right. Well, that's awesome.
This is my offering.
Yeah. So because of all this, I guess again staying with this theme a little bit, but what impact, you've been doing this for 7 years. What impact have you seen on young girls that are coached and mentored by strong female coaches? I mean, what have you? I'm sure you're seeing the impact of this.
Yeah. I think it's the things outside of softball. So the friendships that we've seen carry into college, or the kids that did have the ability to go on and play in college, and they're sending us videos from practice, or just asking us questions about, well, how should I do this? Or what do I do this? Or I had a bad game, and what do you think? And really for me, it's about the relationships that are formed. Obviously coach to player, but also player to player. And it's really neat to watch these girls thrive after Boilermakers. And I'd like to think that we had some impact on that in the ways that they think and view the world. And like I said, the work ethic and learning time management and being disciplined and learning how to work through adversity. And I think the other part is we've had lifers at this point, I guess. So we've had kids that have come into our program at the beginning of their softball journey. And I think 3 graduating this year, and I've coached them the whole time through. And so it's really neat to watch them grow as young women and figure out who they want to be and what they want to do. And I don't know, all of that stuff. So I think really the impact is the relationship piece, and finding good people that can be part of your life forever, and knowing that you have resources to help you get through whatever it is you're going through. And I also think this is one of my highest compliments is when a kid asks me to write them a letter of recommendation or be the person they call for their job interview, or they say, hey, coach, what do you think about this? Right. And they haven't played for me for 3 or 4 years. So I think that's the most meaningful thing to me.
Yeah.
And just creating that network of people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So what is your pitch? What is your, I hate to frame it up that way, but I mean, it is, right? It's an organization. It is getting players into the system. I mean, what is your mission statement that parents are, hearing when they hear about Boilermakers, and when they've hopefully eventually talked to you or another coach in the system? What is it that they will hear about, their kid coming to the Boilermakers? What's that, 5 to 6 year, 7-year pathway look like, and what's the end goal that you're selling?
Yeah, so it's really development, and I think baseball is way ahead of this in terms of that than softball, and people really gravitate towards programs in baseball that are going to develop their player over time. In softball, we're simply catching up to that, and I think people are now realizing the importance of that at 10U, doesn't matter if you go out and win 100 times, if they're not prepared for 12U when the pitching moves back, the ball gets larger, and then for 14U when that happens all over again, not the ball, but the distance of the pitching. Yeah. So there's a lot of segues here. And if you're not prepared for those things, the kids burn out, they don't like the sport, et cetera, et cetera. And so, our heart and soul of what we do is we develop players, and we're really proud of that. So sometimes we take players that other programs say, oh God, we would never take them. And then a year later, this kid's going and like beating their butts, right? And it's the coolest thing. So I like to say that if you want to work hard and you want to get better at the sport, we're the people to take you there. And if you want to win all the time, that's not us. Do we win? Yeah, we win. Do we lose? We lose too. But we're in this for the long haul, and we're in this to give your child what they need when they need it and not when they don't. And when we're ready to win, it's because we're prepared.
Yeah.
And it's our time. And so those are the things that those are the building blocks of this program. And I say it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that. So those are the things that we've really built on, and we stuck to our guns on it. And we're really proud of where we've been and where we're going.
Yeah. And when you're talking to parents, are you selling the end? Are you talking about the end? In other words, are you talking about we can get your athlete to fill in the blank, right? Are you doing that? Are you talking about what the end is for this whole thing and why they have their kid play with you? What does that sound like?
Yeah, I think for us, it's not the overpromise, right? Because we can't with any certainty get a 10U kid in and say that we're going to take you and you're going to go play at Oklahoma, right? Like, I just think that's super unfair.
Wait, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you please repeat that for me?
We can't with any certainty tell you when your child is a 10U player walking into our program that we're going to take you and we're going to get you into Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We just can't, right? And I think when people, for parents and being discerning in the market, if people are promising your kids those things as young athletes, I think it's a red flag. For us, it's here are the things that we know will make your kid better. Here are the things that you can invest in as a parent to help your child get there. Here are the philosophies, that you can practice in order to get your kid there. And we will help you in every single way that we can. And if you are fortunate enough to be good enough when we get to that point, you can get to the finish line there, right? And so for us, it's less of the promises and more about the steps that we're going to take. And if we are able to water you and develop you in those steps, then I think those opportunities can be afforded to you. And that's if you want to do it, right? We've had kids that have gone through, they're very good players, and it got to the finish line and like, gosh, yeah, like, do I really want to play softball in college? Is this something that I really want to do? And some of them wanted to go to bigger schools that didn't necessarily match their softball ability, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's okay too, right? Because we're here to help kids find their path and what they really want out of their experience. And if that happens to be softball post-high school, wonderful. If it's not, we're okay with that too. But we want you to enjoy the sport as long as you want to enjoy it for.
And you guys, I would assume, being in Pennsylvania, do me a favor, for parents that are listening, describe the community of softball where you guys are at in that, I would assume, that tri-state region or even broader. What does that
Sure.
look like as you are competing for and I'm for those of you who are listening, I'm giving air quotes, who you're competing for the athlete to be in your organization. But what does that look like? In the Sunbelt states, it's a different animal, right? Because they're
Sure.
not only are there a lot of clubs, they're trying to hold on to the athlete for dang near 12 months out of the year, which is wrong. But what does that look like in your area?
Yeah. And in here it is very similar whether we like it or not. It is a year-long commitment to be in the program. And if you're not in that vein, you're not necessarily attracting the same type of players. And so for us, softball's really big out here. It's really big on the East Coast, all the way in the New Hampshire, all the way down. So it's it's big out here. And so, yeah, there is a lot of competition for players. There are a lot of teams out here as well. And so for parents, and brands, right, for all of us, it's really important to establish what we are and who we are so that people can gravitate towards where they want their girls' softball journey to be, right? So I think there's a seat for everybody. And it's just, finding the one that's the best fit for their child and their kid. But similarly to where you are, there's a lot of softball out here. It's a really big sport. Yeah.
So there's definitely competition. It doesn't matter Sunbelt State or not. It's competitive. Your story resonates. Are you finding by what you are positioning yourself as, which by the way, to parents that are listening, I knew this story. I wholeheartedly 100% support what Crystalrae is doing. So you've been brought in under pretense that I already knew. But are you
Surprise.
yeah, surprise. But are you finding that what's the right way to say this? Is it harder for you to find enough athletes for the organization? Because look, at the end of the day, it is still a business. I mean, you still need to operate with a certain amount of revenue coming in so that everybody can thrive. So are you finding that you're getting the right numbers? Is the story one? Let me rephrase it again. It's not winning; it's development. And there too often parents are looking at organizations, going, "Well, I got to have my kid playing for the organization that's winning all the tournaments." And no, that's not the case. You do not need to do that. Development is absolutely the most important thing that you should be looking at. So are you finding that the story is resonating and helping, or are you fighting a battle that you're just sticking to your guns because that is the right thing? What does that look like?
I think it's a little bit of all of it, right? So in some ways we're swimming upstream because we are in such not softball exclusive here, right? But we're in a culture and time right now where winning is everything. People are excited to post online, brag about their kids, show the medals, right? And that's a whole nother conversation. So it is difficult in general to go through the ebbs and flows of what you will in a season of development, and be able to come out on the other side of that. So for people that get it, they get it. For some people, if we have to like explain it too much, I oftentimes find it's just not a good fit for them. We've had people leave and then come back and beg us to come back because they said, whoa, we thought this, and this, and the one thing you never did was not lead us in the right direction, right? We may not have liked what you had to say, but you did it to help her and help us as a family, whether we wanted to hear it or not. So, and we have had kids leave and they found better fits. And I think that's really good too, so I think the whole ecosystem here, and at least for me, even as someone that owns a club and wants, as many players to play for us as possible, is I just want kids playing softball. I want kids having a positive experience. And that if that's not with us, it should be with someone else.
Yeah.
They should stay in the sport. And so again, I'm obviously an advocate for my organization and brand, but I'm also an advocate for kids playing sports and having the experience that they want. And so if it's not with us, I hope it's with someone that can give them what they're looking for too.
Yeah. And when it comes to, specialization versus multi-sport, where are you in the scope of all this? And are you encouraging the athletes that are coming in that are trying other things to go play in those seasons? Where do you fall? Where's the organization fall in this position?
Yeah, this one continues to be tougher and tougher. So about 7 years ago when this all began, and again, the culture and climate there was still a way to balance kind of those 3-sport athletes or 2 sports or whatever. And you could also do one that was maybe too travel or elite elite, I hate that word, but elite teams. And unfortunately, we're just continuing to close the window on the amount of activities that kids can do at a time. And so, you know, the days of kids playing 3 sports and being able to go from sport to sport and then be able to enjoy that and train during that time and then, move to the next. It's becoming exceedingly difficult. Us as an organization, we try to, especially when they're younger, 10U, 12U, and even first year 14Us, like we want them to be able to play multiple sports because you benefit from the cross training, you benefit from the different mental aspects of each sport and what they teach you, the different team, the different strategy, all the differences, right? And
Yeah.
again, when we have had kids that play different sports, it really does benefit them. However, the caveat is that we are entering into the specialization time, whether we like it or not. And so I think what we have worked on doing is getting them that cross training through adding supplementary training, strength training, speed and agility, those types of things. Because if they're not going to be able to cross train and just say, let's say they play volleyball, right, good cross trainer or basketball, they're not necessarily always getting that anymore because they have to commit a little bit earlier. So we do offer some of those things to help offset what they might get in that cross training experience. But it's hard for families and it's hard for us as an organization. I'm not going to lie. It's very difficult to try to balance it so they get what they need. And also not take away from the other experiences that they have, but we do our best to honor them playing other sports as much as we can.
Yeah. So you don't discourage it if it's available to them or it's a desire, then
Yes.
you guys are open. Yeah. And
Yes.
by the way, parents that are listening, you should definitely be finding organizations like Crystalrae's, coaches like Crystalrae and all of her coaches who do feel this way. It is okay to play multi-sport. It is okay. It is definitely beneficial to your son or daughter. It will make them a better athlete in whatever sport they do become specialized in or focus on the most. So highly, highly, highly important. Let's shift gears a little bit into mental health. I mean, the one thing that I really love about the idea that, this is female focused from the top down, again, 2 daughters. I've seen this firsthand. I wish I hadn't. You're already creating an environment, it sounds like, that is potentially beneficial when it comes to mental health. What is your guys' position? How, with your coaches, by the way, what are you, having coaches do to focus on mental health and really to look for, issues of anxiety and stress and, those things that come along under mental health category?
Yeah, I think this is one of the things that we can continue to be better at. I think there's a lot of things out there that are hard to understand about this topic and also maybe hard to notice in the moment. So what I tell my coaches and encourage them to do is always look for the root of the issue, not the symptom. And so if a girl comes to practice and she's giving you attitude and stuff, like it's probably not because she doesn't like you, it's because something else happened, right? And are we seeing these patterns over time? So I talk about the root of the issue and then are we seeing patterns? And if we see those things, let's talk to the athlete, let's get a parent involved, let's, circle the wagons and have conversations. What can we do to help? How are you feeling? Those types of check-ins. And so it's really that that care piece of it, that if there was something going on, that they would tell someone. And that's what I tell our coaches. Listen, like we don't have to solve the problem for them. That's not what we're here for, but we are here for them to be able to come to if they need help and us help them navigate that situation. So we want to be someone they trust. Again, we are not mental health experts or professionals
Right.
here, so it's not our cross to carry, but what it is our job to observe and make sure that we're not missing anything either. So, and anyone that's ever coached or has been in our position, like we know that our athletes go through a lot and they won't always tell us or say anything, and they won't always tell their parents or say anything to anyone. They'll go through it silently or they'll go through it with their friends. And, that's the tough part about all this too. So, we have coaches that have shared some of their experiences and what they've gone through just to help people understand that we all go through different things, and how we view and how we experience those can be very different, and that's okay, right? We're all different how we express our feelings and ourselves. So, yeah, we try to make like a safe place, right, to explore those things, be a trusted resource. And again, for our coaches, it's try to get to the root of it. And if there's a pattern, let's see if we can address it.
Yeah.
But again, there's always work to be done here.
Oh, for sure, right? I mean, look, just the difference alone of when my sports parenting journey ended was end of 2019. So here we are 6 years later. First of all, there's a conversation happening. It's out in the open. That was not happening 6 years ago. The issues that we were having in our family, I could not find information on it. First of all, I don't even know if, for me personally, I couldn't identify what was going on. Number one, I'm not sure my daughter could identify what was going on. My wife seemed to be a little more in tune to it than I was. But again, it's not, the information wasn't readily available. I think if anything came from COVID, I think COVID accelerated mental health information and mental health awareness faster, probably, through it all. So we're probably in a different space today. If I was a parent in your organization, Crystalrae, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, and there was something that was being observed either by a coach or maybe I as a parent, and I came together, and first of all, it sounds as if at the club you are for sure open to the conversation with the parent to find out what is happening with the child. Do you have resources? Do you have any professionals? You stated you're not a professional, and of course you're not, but do you have professionals that you can push athletes, towards, and parents towards, for that kind of help? Again, I'm asking this because 6 years ago there was nothing, and the clubs that we were in, both volleyball and soccer, there was no awareness, and really it was a double down on situations that were going on, and sometimes the coach didn't even realize they were doubling down on a situation that was creating mental health.
Sure.
So
Yeah. We've gone through some situations that, there were some conversations, things that were brought up to us. And for us, it was, for me, I was like, I think this is, have you considered a counseling? Have you talked to your pediatrician? Have you sought out? It's more asking them about what resources they've sought out. We don't necessarily recommend or court them to anyone in particular, but it's more just having that conversation of like, hey, we think that, this might be valuable, like speaking to therapist, professional, whatever, and we've even seen it on the sports injury side. I had a gal going into her junior year, first time out in the summer, so big recruiting time for her, and she caught a fly ball just the wrong way and broke her finger, had to have pins, so she was out the whole summer. And like after surgery, that was the scary part. But then, I checked in on her, and then I, talked to her parents all the time. This is one of my lifers. I've had her since she was very young. And, I just said, hey, like, have you guys considered this? Like, this is, I know. They're like, yeah, it's really messing with her. And I said, like, make sure you seek out these things. So they did. And it really made a big difference for her. You know what I mean? So, even just that idea where parents may not have considered certain resources, or at least looking into it, or speaking with like their pediatrician or a doctor, right? And say, hey, this is what my kid's going through. What do we have afforded to us, this way? Even just opening up that line, I think, has been helpful for some families too.
yeah, that's awesome. By the way, I can definitely endorse, if there are any softball players in the tri-state area that are looking for a club, you need to go to the Boilermakers, because this is someone who cares. She cares deeply, and that is highly critical, highly critical. Yeah, I think for me, by the way, just to bring it back around, where I was tending to go in all of this was searching for the sports psychologist. And because of the background of what I have, there were certain individuals that I was able to try to tap into, but I don't even know if those were the right places to go. I don't know if the sports psychologist and the sports psychologist, for what they are, when is the right time and place for that person, would you say? 10, 12, 15, 17, 18? When is that for sports parents who are tuning in? And
time to plan dinner.
Sorry, Alexa. Yeah, I think it depends on the athlete, honestly, and what they're going through. I don't know that there's necessarily like set ages or targets or whatever. again, I think if we go back to the beginning here and we talk about just sports development overall, we ask kids to do a lot at young ages, whatever sport they're playing, and it's biologically unfair to ask them to do those things because of their gross motor skills and fine motor skill development and their cognitive abilities, right? So we stack all these things up on them very quickly. There's high expectations put on being able to have all these skills put together, and then you put the added pressure of winning or performance on top of that, right? And we're just like cracking our kids, right? And so where I would say before, like, hey, maybe you need like a sports psychologist when you get into college because you got the yips, right? Because the pressure is so much and you haven't
Yeah.
had to like deal with that before. Like we are bringing that into our very like young children's experience, right? So we're talking like 6, 7-year-olds feeling the pressure of like, whatever, a collegiate athlete. And when you think of it like that, you're like, holy smokes, whoa. So when I say, hey, maybe we wouldn't need it till this point, the answer is the kids just shouldn't need it. That shouldn't even be in the conversation until you get to a certain point in your athletic career. Because if we're doing the things at the primary level about support, about enjoying the sport, about finding things that our kids love and they enjoy doing and they're playing for the joy of the sport, we wouldn't need them as much, right? So I guess that's sort of my issue with it,
Yeah.
even though they are needed. I wish we didn't. Like, I wish that
Yeah.
wasn't the question that we're asking right now, honestly. Like,
Right?
oh my gosh, like to conceive of that seems terrible, honestly. But of course we're where we are, so we need to deal with it.
Yeah, and then we can kind of wrap it into the growth of the whole youth sports industry and what it means. And from a financial perspective, we're going to get those sports psychologists who are going to come in because of that. And I think you totally are hitting it on the head of the nail here, and that is parents. You really don't need a sports psychologist, especially. I mean, what I'm hearing you saying, correct me, if you're in college, you probably could use a sports psychologist if the situation reflected it. High school is probably less in a time space, but it could be possible in a junior and senior year. But youth areas, rec side, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, no need. To your point, focus on the fun, focus on the development. It'll all take care of itself if that's happening. So, yeah.
Right. But again, it's not. So
Right.
It is the conversation. It's important, right? Like it's an important resource that we may have to tap into because of where the youth sports culture is and has become. So we're not really getting around it right now. But again,
Yeah.
I just hate that is a conversation and that's something that we would have to consider for children that are so young.
Yeah, and I think it's more, the reason why I even brought it up, I think there's more of a separation between mental health and talking to somebody versus an athlete talking to a sports psychologist. I don't believe they're one and the same.
No.
I could be totally wrong, and hopefully we'll have experts on here that will clarify that, but I believe they're not one and the same. And so if you see symptoms, if you see things that your child is affected by, and is showing you signs of mental health issues, anxiety, stress, and so on, it is time to have them talk to somebody. A sports psychologist isn't necessarily that person. And so on the flip side, the sports psychologist fills a void, but really to an athlete that's older and in a much different competitive environment than just playing 10U.
Sure.
Right.
You would hope.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, so let's transition this one into. I'd like to talk about sports culture at home, and what that means. I can't say that I was purposefully creating a sports culture at home. I think we were. I mean, my wife came from a athletic family, basketball players. My background. I think we were, but I think to really one of my messages that I try to convey to parents quite frequently is be purposeful. Think about what you want that sports culture to be. You're in an early stage where you're establishing your sports culture at home. You and your husband, both former athletes, coaches. God, I wish I had that experience to build my sports culture on at home. But in talking to parents and what you see with parents today, talk about how critical it is to have that understanding, and then subsequently, this is the reason to find the clubs that fit that culture. Your club is an example. Your coaches that are in that club. Talk about the importance of putting those all together.
Yeah, so it's funny because my husband and I were just having this conversation the other day. So one, parents who have multiple children, um, you know that all your children are very different. And I think part of the um part of the, rabbit hole we go down is trying to give everything equally to all of our kids, right? And so what one kid needs, another kid doesn't, and et cetera, et cetera. So their experiences overall as children will look and feel very different sometimes. And sometimes they're very similar. But um, if I look at my own very like anecdotal small experience, because my kids are just entering, um, I would say that one thing that we've learned so far is to find the sport or activity that your child can grow and learn and feel good about themselves in, and then watch what they tell you as they grow into it. So, for example, my son,
Yeah, by the way, talk about your three, because I love where your kids are at, what they're doing.
yeah. So my son Bobby, he's 5. He's my middle. I'll start with him. And so he is just a ball of energy. Runs around all the time. He has a ball, a stick, a bat, whatever in his hand, and just whatever kicking. Our house is destroyed. It's fine. We're actually an indoor house facility. I don't know if any of you have those as well. But he started wrestling when he was 4. My husband and I know nothing about the sport. We signed him up and we're like, I don't know, we'll see what happens, right? And he did really well, and it was interesting to watch him learn through. It's a really tough sport, by the way, and a really cool group of people to be around, and just again, wrestling culture is pretty neat.
Yeah.
We learned a lot about that. But he'd come home and he would like sleep in a singlet, and then he would like want to watch like people wrestling and learn more moves, and then he wanted to practice with his sisters. And then when he got tired of that, he'd be like, Mom, I'm gonna go hit, and he'd go grab a bat and he's hitting balls, and then he'd go, I want to go get the soccer ball, and he's got a hockey stick and he's doing all these things. And so then we signed him up for quickball, which is um, a younger version of baseball. And so he's like ripping balls and doing all this stuff. And I was coaching him because he asked me to coach. And we don't have many coaches, so I helped. And when he's up to bat, I am, pitching to him and I'm throwing really hard and he strikes out. And on the way home, he's like, Mom, why'd you do that to me? Like, I want to hit too. And I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, I was so worried about like nepotism and like people thinking, and I ruined your day, but you deserve to hit just like all the other kids.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter because no one cares. We're not gonna keep you score. So I have him, and he's doing soccer now, and he really enjoys it, and he's he wants to do more and all this stuff. So he's our kid for right now. Gwen, my youngest, she's a savage. I'd imagine she'd be even more into things than Bobby is. But
a savage? Is that how you describe
savage,
Gwen?
Yeah, we'll talk about her. My third is a savage. Yeah, we might be calling the police on her. I'm not sure. She's crazy.
Gwen.
Pray for me. No, she's great. She's great. But Bobby, my husband and I are like, okay, well, what can we do? Because he would be happy to go after school and play something every day. And, how do you balance the development piece? But he wants more. Like, he's very competitive. He wants more. So like, again, to your point and what we're talking about, like, how do we find things that enrich our son's experience and give him the things that he's asking us for and looking for, right? Without going to those like peak psychotic levels as a 5-year-old, right? And then you have my daughter who's 7, didn't like team sports, had a lot of social anxiety, didn't really make friends at school much, especially when she's younger, didn't want to talk to anyone. And our friend recommended boxing. And so she started boxing. And
what's her name?
Harper.
Harper, okay.
And I get kind of choked up thinking about it, because again, a sport we know nothing about, and we took her, and gosh, she works her tail off, and every week she looks forward to it. And the other day she's just like pushing a sled, and she's like throwing tires, and she's like punching the snot out of her coach, and she's just lighting up, and she just can't wait to go in. It's just built her confidence, and she has friends now, and she is more eager to start things. And I really think that boxing was a big part of that. And now she wants to play basketball, and she wants to try a team sport. And so for her, like, and she's a good athlete, but if she's number 12 on the roster and wants to play with her friends, like, I'm happy to ride that out with her, right? And my son, I think he's probably a decent athlete. We'll see what happens. And then there's Gwen, who's 3, and we'll have to see what happens with her. But she's doing soccer right now. She says she wants to play softball, so we'll see. But
by the
honestly,
way, I got to ask you. So we've got Gwen the Savage, we've got Bobby the Brawler on the mat in wrestling.
Yep.
Did Harper go to boxing to protect herself and to beat up on her little brother and little sister?
No, I don't think so. But I mean, yeah, I guess we're not the family to mess with at this point.
But yeah, apparently.
Just be careful.
I'm definitely glad to know the States family in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, watch out. But yeah, so it's, and again, like that experience of watching your child connect with something and connect with her coach. And, even Bobby, like he just loves sports. He loves meeting kids. He loves making friends. But he's also, whatever, he's just into it, a little more competitive in that way. But it's just neat to watch all of your kids do that. So I guess I don't remember what the original question was, but my whole point is that your kids are all different.
We're talking about sports culture, by the way, at home. And
yeah. Find the path that they're telling you they want to go on, and do it with them. Like, don't make it about whatever your experiences were or whatever your preconceived notions of what your kids should do or this or that or whatever. Like playing at a professional sport or being a professional at anything is really cool, but statistically speaking, like most of our kids will never do that. So what do you want to do with that time in between? Do you want to be angry at your kids and yell at them on the way home? Do you want to enjoy that with them? Do you want to watch them? Do you want to love watching them play? Do you want to watch your daughter learn how to overcome some rocks? Or you want to watch your son be super competitive and like love what he's doing? Like you can't get that time back with your kids, and they won't get that time back either. So
yeah,
I think it's the idea of finding the places and the programs and the people, right, that will align with what you're looking for your kids to do, and move them through that way.
Yeah, and it sounds like, in all seriousness, I mean, the way they are right now, you may find yourself in a multi-sport environment year after year after year until it is finally decided which one is the sport they're going to specialize in. I mean, it's definitely how they're starting out right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we want them to experience different things. We want them to find what they like, and if it's none of the sports that my husband and I played, we're okay with that. Cause like I said, we know nothing about wrestling or boxing, and watching our kids do that, and feel good about it. And even soccer, we were not soccer people. Like it's been the coolest thing ever, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk real quickly about, as a club owner, as a coach, talk about the parents. I mean, there's the do's and the don'ts, right? What not to do on the sidelines. I mean, how are you managing all of that? Is there a intro into the club that this is your expectation? It is defined out. Is that holding true to what, you guys want for, the parent support? What are you guys doing to kind of set that tone?
Yeah, I think this is something that I've changed my perspective on a lot. Coming from being, a young, less educated person on like how parents and coaches and org should interact at the very beginning till now. And I think what I've learned is that parent inclusion is the most important thing that we can do. And so I used to be like, hey, these are athletes, it's our time, and like, peace, see ya, like, have a fun day. But as I've gone on, I realized that creating that type of boundary can be ostracizing instead of, meeting the end goal of what we're trying to do. So we all want to align, and we all want to, create an experience together for the parent, the parents and the family and the child. And so for us at the beginning, it is, these are our responsibilities. We're agreeing to these things together. Parent conflict, like if you don't like something, we're always going to make mistakes. Like we are not perfect, but we will always have that conversation. And I found that when we have those tough conversations, they're actually the most beneficial conversations that we've ever had, because we get on the same page as those people, and their experience increases because they were just able to like get it out, right? In a productive 24-hour rule, sit down, blah, blah, blah. The other thing that I think is creating plans for their kids. So we meet with parents and kids at the end of the fall, at the end of the winter, and then at the end of the summer with their evals, and kind of talk through what we observe, how we see them growing. Here are the things that we're going to work on with your child, and here are the ways that you can support them. And so, again, when we've partnered with families, instead of being like closed practice, closed doors, all this, and I was very much like that at the beginning, because I didn't necessarily see the benefit of it, and that was just me being green and inexperienced. But the more that I've embraced allowing parents to be involved with respectful boundaries, I found has been more beneficial for all of us. coaches, teams, and clubs.
Yeah, and how important is it for that communication to be two-way in your club? I mean, in your philosophy of it all.
Do you mean? Can you rephrase that question?
Well, if the parents have an open, they can come talk to you. They can have conversations. I'm not saying why isn't little Jenny, starting this weekend, but
sure.
But encouraging the conversation. Here's my reasoning. I've saw too many coaches that just thought they had, the knowledge of or whatever you thought you were going to come say and shut the door on you and didn't allow conversation at all. Communication's so critical. I mean, we talked about mental health and what goes along with there's so many things, and a parent should not be afraid to talk to the coach. At the same rate, there are boundaries of what you really should come talk to the coach about. I mean, it's not about why they didn't start in Sunday's game. That's something maybe that the athlete needs to go talk to the coach about, not the parent. But in that context.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think again, when we've opened up lines of communication and we've worked on forming relationships again with parents, they are, I would say, more gracious in some of maybe small missteps instead of trying to light us on fire and like prove a point, right? And also on the other side, they're more appreciative of what we're doing, right? And so I think again, if there's an issue, I do think you should address it. If there's something that you like, because I think that's less of what we hear about is like, oh my goodness, this was really great, or I really liked when you did this with this kid, right? Like we oftentimes get the feedback of what people don't like and what's going wrong. And while that is super valuable, truly, because that's the way that we can get better, and we're not mind readers, right? So when we know why and how our parents think, right, we can deliver on that. We can meet expectations, or we can temper expectations, right? We can work through all those things. So to your point, I tell the parents, like, we're not mind readers. I tell the kid, we're not mind readers. So please come to us, good, bad, and different. And like, we will always have that conversation with you.
Yeah.
And again, when we have had tough ones, it's actually not been that tough, because we get to the end and you can see both of us are actually relieved, because there was a lot of commonality there. And then when they allowed us to be, or when we allowed them to be heard and they heard us, we were like, oh, wait a second. Right. So, so to your point, like misconceptions can happen. Assumptions can happen, and what assuming does. But again, when we can open up those channels, and then we also teach our kids that like, you don't have to be afraid of a conversation.
Yeah.
The only one you need to be afraid of is the one you never had, because you never had the opportunity to see what that could have done. Right. And so communicate, advocate for yourself in the right ways. And, it's very beneficial, I think, even the tough ones.
Yeah.
Even the tough ones.
Yeah. 100%. All right, well, let's bring this around to a close. I got a couple bigger picture questions. I want to ask you, if you could reshape the youth sports culture in one way, what would it be?
Phew. One way.
I mean, you may be shaping it in just what you're doing with Boilermakers, but is there anything else that's sitting out there that you'd like to really have Harper go hit a knockout punch on?
I think it would be more education for coaches, more resources for people that want to get into coaching and maybe just feel afraid to, right? I think it's empowering people that would like to raise their hand but won't. There's a lot of reasons why people don't. And I think if we were able to have more things available for people to learn and learn how to coach, I think they would. So I guess that's another thing I'd like to add into, the whole thing of, helping people who maybe want to be mentored and cultivated into coaches. They just may not know where to start.
Yeah. If you can give one message to parents and coaches raising the next generation of female athletes, what would it be?
Don't be a dick. No, you can't. You can take that out, right?
No, that'll be in there. That's okay. No. I've seen some of those, and that's okay.
No, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it's about the joy of playing a sport and going through that together. And so just don't lose sight of that, right? Like these are girls, these are babies, like they're children. This is not the World Series, Super Bowl, whatever, right? Like our lives are not riding on if your son or daughter hits a single like through the middle to win a championship game. Like it will be fine, right? Like it will be fine. Tomorrow will be fine. So it's just perspective, I think, is the biggest thing. Like have some perspective. These are kids.
Yeah. And by the way, in your sport, in our sport, baseball, softball, it's a numbers game. And how those numbers come along, it doesn't, Shohei Ohtani was hitting under $150 before he had one of the, well, I shouldn't even say one, the best performances in baseball history. He was hitting $150 in the playoffs. Like, you
Yeah.
just
Well, I mean,
don't
we
know.
we intentionally walked him, the Phillies, and then we blow a throw to home, which I won't talk about. I'm still a little sour about it, but but anyway, but that's another prime example. Like, it can happen in professional sports.
Yep.
So why are we expecting our kids to be able to do it and holding them to the same standards, right? Is your child getting paid millions of dollars at 5 years old to do it? Nope. So
Yeah.
zip
Yeah.
it and have some fun.
Exactly. The numbers will happen when they happen. What do you hope your players and even your own kids, what do you hope the takeaway from the game from years from now is?
I hope they can look back on some of the memories that they had playing, and it's the story they tell at Thanksgiving or Christmas when they're with their pals and buddies. Hey, remember when we did this and that? Like, I hope that's in their like Rolodex of memories, that they find something to cling on to from those days that was really meaningful to them.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're at rapid fire, Crystalrae. It's time for rapid fire. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. Tell me a strong female coach who inspired you.
Deb Thompson,
Okay. Where was that at?
Spring Arbor University.
Okay. Harder role, coach or sports parent?
Sports parent.
And you're just entering with all three of those guys. Ooh, I can't wait to hear about the Savage too.
I know. We're all a little guilty of being part of the problem. I recognize that too.
Yeah. Well, you got a three that are they're gonna be all over the place playing, so it's gonna be fun. How do you define a female first program in one sentence?
Female first program in one word.
One sentence. I didn't.
One sentence.
Yeah, I won't hold you to one word.
Compassionate and competitive.
Okay. All right. One thing you would want your daughters or your players to know about confidence.
Confidence is about showing up, and it's not about perfection.
Love it. What makes a great female coach?
Someone that can balance the experience, and someone that coaches the individual player, not just as a blanket team.
Okay. Biggest challenge in getting more women into coaching?
Babies. No, I'm just kidding. Start a family, careers, a lot of things, I think. Societal pressures.
Yeah. Okay. This is an interesting one. This yes or no, or which one? Multi-sport athlete or single sport specialist? Who do you bet on? This is a
In
good,
2025?
yeah, just in general. After single sport or multi-sport athlete, who do you bet on?
All right, I'll go multi-sport.
Okay. I was hoping you'd go there. If you could give every sports parent one reminder before a game, what would it be?
Love watching your kids play.
Well, okay. And the last question that everybody gets, what does it mean to be valiant to you?
Being brave.
Okay. All right. Well, you did it. You made it through rapid fire, and I'm going to give you final thoughts. Do you have any final thoughts for us?
I think, again, just to drive it home, is these are kids. You won't get these moments back. And so whatever it is that you're going to select to do with your kid, or sports they're going to play or whatever, our job as parents is to love them through it and to love watching them play. Find programs that speak to your kids and give them what they're looking for and what you're looking for as a parent, and always be ready to advocate if you need to jump in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, the one last thing I got to ask you is the podcast. When is it going to launch? What can we expect?
Yeah, so I've got some guests. We've done some recording.
All right.
I am sort of tinkering with it a little bit. So I'm hoping, I did get it set back a little bit further than I thought. So I'm hoping by the end of November, we'll have a couple episodes out, and I'm excited to talk about some of the truths and how we can really dive into things in youth sports that some people don't like to talk about. So we're gonna get to it.
Well, awesome. We definitely need more of that so parents understand. So that's great. I wish you great success with that. And then anybody who is in the area, tri-state area, I guess you could still, anybody from the
Yeah.
tri-state area. If you're in that area and the club is in Pennsylvania, the Boilermaker Softball and Baseball Club, softball in particular for Crystalrae. If you're in that area, I listened to this last hour and I already knew it coming in. I wish my kids had played here. My daughters, Crystalrae, you've heard me say this before. I said it in both of their podcast interviews, which are coming out in the next week. They were definitely given the baseball genes. They could throw, they had great hand-eye, and they could catch. My soccer player, who eventually went and played in middle school, and she was so good in middle school, by the way, that the coach put her at shortstop, had never played before. So there you go. That sums it up.
Yep, that shows your best athlete normally, right?
Yeah, except when she got up to the plate against some of the club kids and they started spinning the ball on her, then it was all over. And unfortunately, she never got the feeling of really getting a hold of one. And I kept telling her, we can make you a hitter really fast, because when you connect, there is no better feeling than watching your ball go over the fence. There's nothing comparable, but I couldn't sell it.
Yeah, I agree.
I couldn't sell it. I wish you had been around, and maybe we would needed to be in the tri-state area, because you would have made some.
I would still be little though.
Yeah, well, they would be, well, yeah, no, you might, well, no, yeah, you wouldn't be little. You were probably in college, but yeah, either way, they would have been great in your program, but shoot. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough. This has been an awesome conversation. I hope we can have it again. There's so many softball kids that are out there, and parents and families. It's a conversation definitely that is ongoing. There are a lot of resources out there for anybody who is looking for information on Crystalrae. We'll have it posted on Valiant Sports Society, so please look there. And in closing, if you found value, and thank you very much, Crystalrae. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Yeah. In closing, if you found value in this conversation, share it with another parent, an athlete, and even a coach. For more stories like this, as well as other resources, visit playfearless.org. And as I always like to sign off, for all the parents that are in the thick of it or just starting out, remember, you're allowed to make bold, informed decisions for your child. You're allowed to walk away from the wrong team. You're allowed to demand a better culture. But most of all, you're allowed to trust your gut and lead your family the way that's right for you, and especially your kids. Until next time, be valiant, play fearless.